what they do. So, um, okay.
Apologies. Yes, I'm recording it. So
All right.
apologies, everybody. I think I should have upgraded the Zoom link.
Oh.
We're only allowed to take in 100 people, and we have lots of people buzzing in right now that they're not able to come in. So apologies. I'm trying to upgrade right now, but there's some sort of problem.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
But you can continue, please.
All
That's a
right.
good
So
problem to
I
have.
guess, that's why you should probably register or come early. I don't know, however that works. But yeah, so I pivoted into the space, and I started with a solution architect associate. And the way I got my first job then, I got a job with Wolf. So when I finished the certification, so just so you know, transitioning into tech now, it's actually, I think there are a lot of information, but it's probably tougher to get a job than what it was 6 years ago. So 6 years ago or 7 years ago, you just needed a certification and you just needed to like show up at the interview, or just one interview, two interviews. They ask you a few questions about, oh, what did you work with? What do you know about this concept? And I was able to get a job with World Wrestling Entertainment. Then that was my first opportunity. I moved from New York to Connecticut, and I started living my life. I felt like I was at the top of the world. So I feel like that was one of the most rewarding point of my career, because I was, I just found myself in a spot where I was making almost 3 times what I was initially making. And I felt like I was the happiest person. But one thing that was missing then was that people were figuring out cloud. Everyone was still figuring out, people knew cloud, but they don't know as much as people know now. So it was like a lot of experimenting going on around. And I felt like what I knew from certification did not help me on the job. I had to do a lot of extra work. And that was sort of like a point where I was learning so much, and I was also growing at the same time. I was experimenting. I think I broke a server that, almost got me fired, but I'm just glad I had a manager that was really nice, and she understood that, I was growing too then. And from there, everything from that point was me now moving into like the big data space. I love data a lot. So I moved into big data space because I was working with like services that included data in cloud. And then I moved into, I worked at PSEG, and then from there, I feel like I've worked so much at different companies, and up till now, I've also worked at Nike at some point as a contractor in big data. I moved out of there. So I've continuously improved myself from there. Up to this point now, I do machine learning, and that's because I just like building infrastructure for like either data engineers or like people that were doing like, building models and optimizing them and a lot of those cool stuff. And I think I'm probably still going to explore more areas, maybe go into cybersecurity at some point. I just love learning, and I feel like that's something that has actually gotten me to this point. I feel I feel like I just told my whole life story for like how we now. But yeah, but that's practically like my journey. But I'm open to, getting questions from people as we move along. I think there will be different areas that I'm going to dive into. And yeah, that's all about me now. And yeah, you can go, James. Sorry, I think it was really long.
Yeah, that's a tough act to follow, Gabe. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Yes.
So yeah, my journey, I guess I'll start from college. I graduated college back in 2012 with an
Awesome.
English degree that took me
Whoa.
8 years. Yeah, 8 years to get that English degree. So that's a separate rabbit hole we can talk about today if you want, but maybe at another date. So I graduated with an English degree, didn't know what I wanted to do. So I did what everybody does. I booked a one-way ticket to Sweden, and
Wow.
I ended up staying there for a year. That was not planned at the time. It was an amazing experience. I volunteered at schools, built houses, and made lifelong friends. Some of them actually came back to the States and were groomsmen in my wedding party. So it was
Wow.
absolutely a phenomenal experience.
Wow.
After a year of that, I realized most countries don't want you to stay if you're not contributing to their economies, which makes sense. And I figured I should probably get back and figure out my life. So I come back, still don't know what I want to do, but I know that I'm tired of paying for education, not knowing what I want to do. So in an effort to push myself out of my comfort zone, I went to work on a tugboat. And my plan was to work up and become a captain. I had heard that they make good money. I was going to learn something new. It was something. About a year and a half into that, I had an opportunity to move over to the management side of the fleet. And I like that a lot because it gave me an opportunity to use my brain a little bit more instead of dragging lines and doing all of that. So that was my last job where I worked my way up to becoming an assistant manager at this publicly traded company. And it was during that time that I discovered programming through a Udemy course in Python. And that is when I had my light bulb moment. It was just right then and there. I knew that I had missed my calling up until there. And I knew that I had to figure out a way to integrate that into my day-to-day life and to do it for a living. So long story short there, I did start to integrate it into my work responsibilities, and I got great feedback. It's kind of funny because in terms of computer science, it wasn't anything fancy, but in the company's eyes, you would think that I invented fire. So that was kind of funny, gave me a chuckle. But I realized that I couldn't become the engineer that I envisioned myself becoming through those ad hoc implementations. So after long discussions with my wife, the end of last year, I gave my manager a 30-day notice and let him know that I was going to burn the proverbial ships, not the actual ones, and I was going to fully embrace this career transition. So I actually attended Springboard's online boot camp. I got 80% of the way through that when the LinkedIn apprenticeship opportunity presented itself. I did have a couple of other interviews that I'm happy to talk about at some point if that's appropriate. Some of them went well, some of them did not go well, but all of them, I think, lended themselves to, the next one. Basically, there were lessons learned. And as for my day-to-day at LinkedIn, I feel like I'm the luckiest guy on the planet. I get to wake up and learn and do what I love for a living. I've got a lot of support. Originally, I was supposed to relocate my family to Omaha, Nebraska, 1,300 miles away. That was a little bit of a bummer because we had just had our first child and we were going to have to, rip her out of her support network. But thankfully, about 4 months ago, LinkedIn changed their policy where apprentices would also have the option to remain full-time remote. So that really instilled, even more loyalty for me towards LinkedIn. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Awesome. Thank you, James. That's quite inspiring. I would just talk about myself as well. So I have a degree in botany from my undergrad in Nigeria. From there, I did 2 master's degrees, and I started a PhD in soil science. That was in 2015. It wasn't really what I enjoyed doing, and just I woke up one day and I decided to quit that PhD. And I moved from Idaho to Baltimore, and I started a new PhD. I was working on vaccine process development. So I was working as a scientist. I went to Merck to start working as a scientist, but didn't really enjoy it. The fact that I have to wake up every day, go to the office, and I was planning to start a family. I felt like, well, I can just let me transition into tech. It will give me the opportunity to start working from home. I was very intentional with what I wanted, but being in the science world, it was quite very hard for me to transition into tech. So Gabriel posted something back then. I think that was in 2018 or 2017. I can't remember pretty well. He was like, "Oh, he's gonna conduct a webinar in New York. If you're interested, you can come around. You can learn about data and all that good stuff." So I went to New York with my roommates, and I got so much in love with data, and I started learning a lot of stuff on YouTube, Udemy. Sometimes I would call Gabriel in the middle of the night to help me out with some concepts. Eventually it paid off. I think it was 2 months right after that, after I started learning, that I got a job as a data project manager. I was working as a database administrator and also working in the project management side. So that really worked out for almost 1 year, and they gave me a project at work. I was struggling with that. 3 weeks, I still couldn't figure out what exactly I needed to do. At some point, I had to tell my manager, I'm not getting it. It almost got me fired. And before I got fired, I'm like, let me just quit this job. So I decided to quit that job. And someone was just posting something randomly on LinkedIn, and I got interested. They were like, "Oh, I'm a product manager." So I felt like, what exactly is product management? So I started doing my own research, and I saw that people actually do training as a product manager. And then I went for the training, and just 3 weeks after I started training, I started applying for jobs. I started networking with people on LinkedIn. I was able to work on my resume. Things worked out perfectly for me. And I think 6 weeks after that, I was able to land a job as a product manager. My own story is kind of unique in the sense that I've been in the startup environment for a long time, for over 10 years now. And I've been doing some startups, doing some sort of prototyping, conducting user research. So when I went for that product management training, everything just fell in place. I'm like, okay, this, what I was doing alone was actually product management. So it kind of became a very smooth transition for me. So the training I did really helped out, but I had to still like learn a lot of concepts on my own, reach out to people, networking. I'm someone that would just go out there on LinkedIn, search for professionals in my field and start sending them cold emails, sending them LinkedIn messages. I try as much as possible to utilize this 1 month free paid plan on LinkedIn. And as much as possible, I will start networking with a lot of people. And it worked out pretty well for me. So my own kind of journey is kind of unique in the sense that, well, I got a PhD in biochemistry. I did a lot of work in soil science. I have a bachelor's degree in botany. I'm moving from one country to another. And here I am today. I work as a senior PM at American Express. So this is just to tell you that regardless of your background or regardless of wherever you're coming from, as long as you have as long as you want to learn, you can always get it. Like Gabriel said the other time, it was like, oh, you still want to learn. It learns every day. And working on Techchak as a co-founder and also the chief product officer, it's opened my heart to a whole lot. I don't stop learning. I'm still like looking for more opportunities out there to learn, have mentors that would guide me in the right direction. And the bottom line is that as long as you're willing to learn, it will still come. Some people, it may take them 2 months, some it may take them 3 months, some it may even take them 1 year. As long as you are open to learning, you're still going to get it at the end of the day. So just to ask everybody, if you have any kind of question, you can put questions in the chart. I'll be looking into the chart. And Gabriel, you want to say something?
Yes, just a quick one. Sorry, I think a lot of people my phone is buzzing. Like it looks like we need to increase. I didn't know we had a 100 limit. Did we try to do that or we have to restart the session? Maybe we can give like a 5-minute break to quickly fix that. Do you think we can do that?
Let's give a 5 minutes break.
Yeah, sorry guys. I mean, the reason because a lot of people registered like very long ago, so it's kind of like
my phone is buzzing too.
yeah.
So,
I feel like I paid for this. Like I'm trying to get in. I paid. No. So
give me a couple of minutes.
sure. So that's just gonna be our first break, I guess. Mandatory.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, guys. Just give us some minutes.
I think I just upgraded, so apologies everybody. So we have more people coming in. Is Gabriel still there? Just 1 minute. Let me see if he's still on the call. Let me give him just 1 minute. Okay, so apologies for the break in transmission. So so I would just continue. I do have a question for the speaker. So you've talked about your tech journey. I just wanted to ask, how difficult was it for you guys to overcome the challenges you faced? Number one, what are the challenges you faced transitioning into tech? Let's start from there first.
Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
Yeah, I can go first. I always like to go first. So anyway, so for me, I think one of the challenges, so here is the thing. I think it's important to actually carefully separate the time. So when I was getting into tech, it was a different era from now, even though it's like just maybe 6, 7 or 5 years ago. I think there's a very big shift in the past 2, 3 years in terms of people transitioning into tech. And everyone here can bear me witness, because everywhere now is like get into tech. So the challenge I faced as at then, and I'll be very honest, I don't think I'll be facing as much challenge as someone who's trying to get into tech now. However, there are certain challenges that I faced that someone will not face now. So the kind of challenges that I faced then that you might not face now, a very good example is access to the right materials and right trainings. Then it was very few people that were training, and the trainings were expensive. And even if you could afford the training, there was still the part where you had to like figure out a lot of things on your own. However, the good side was that companies were not as serious in terms of that, how people were getting into companies were not like taking interviews crazily serious like that. So it was, as long as you got the right training and you knew what you were doing, you could actually easily get in. I think another challenge then was that a lot of those concepts, even people that were teaching you, they're still trying to understand it yourself. Cloud is not even 40 years, or I'm not sure exactly how many years cloud has been, so far, but cloud is, technically we can say cloud is still like a new thing. Everyone is still trying to figure out what cloud is like. A lot of features has been rolled out, in the past, couple of years. But now that I'm mentoring people, one of the biggest challenges that I have seen with them is the aspect of how to, there's 3 main parts to it. I think the first part is figuring out exactly what you want to do. I think a lot of people go with a trend and they are not sure if this is what they really want to do, what their passion is, or what is their actual strong points. That's the first one I see. Another one I see is that when you figure out exactly what you want to do, there's the right training, getting the right person to actually train you, or finding someone to mentor you. And then even if when you get the right training, the next hurdle is getting a job. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is you finish your training today and you want to get a job tomorrow. Like, I think it's you have to create a good amount of time to transition into like getting a job, because even if you get lucky to get into a job today, there's so many things that you might not be taught in class that you meet at a job, on the job itself. So that in itself is a challenge, like that transition and finding those right people. Another thing now is that everyone is trying to, I wouldn't say everyone, like a good amount of people are trying to get into tech. Like I have loads of emails and DMs from people that are actually in healthcare, people in, I've seen people that are actually nurse practitioners, pharmacists, even I think I've spoken to a doctor that wanted to transition into tech, a couple of them. And it's like there is this wave of people moving into that space, and it's getting a little more competitive. However, there are still many more opportunities for people out there, because technology in itself is continuously evolving. And there is so much, a lot of companies, there are a lot of healthcare companies that I've worked, well, some healthcare companies that I have worked with that are continuously, trying to find ways to expand into cloud. And that is creating more opportunities for, people that are trying to work in cloud. And I think a few days ago, I posted something on my Instagram page that IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, they have a code base that is still 60 years old, and they still run that code base till now. At some point, there will be so many, as a matter of fact, only a very small portion of companies in the United States or in, significant regions of the world are currently in cloud. There are so many companies still moving from their legacy system, and it's like a continuous thing. So as the needs are growing, the supply is also growing, the demand is also growing at the same time. So it's like we're just moving with that pace. So it's a lot of people transitioning and then getting the right training to get yourself, separated from everyone that is trying to do it. I think that's like one big challenge, which we would also have some conversations on how we can, overcome challenges like that today. And I'm looking forward to answering a lot of questions around that. So those are the challenges I know from my experience and from people that I've tried to help. I think James can go.
Yeah, no, thank you for those, Gabe. I want to say my biggest challenge was probably convincing myself that I was ready to make the shift, because I discovered programming. It was 2019. I remember it like it was yesterday, that Udemy course. And I knew I liked it and I started to use it, but I never thought that I was good enough, so to speak. And, I always say that, yeah, there may be things I would have done differently, but I don't want to go back and change the past. But it definitely could have been more efficient if I had trusted the other experience that I had before, because no matter where any of you come from, you've got experiences in your life that transfer to the tech industry. And so many people that I talk with, they sell themselves short in that regard. They're not confident. And I understand that. It took me 35 years to get confident with who I am. So it's not an overnight thing. But I'm telling you, each and every one of you has experiences and knowledge that you can bring that a fresh college graduate isn't going to have. And if for some reason you are a fresh college graduate, well, good for you. You've got youth on your side. Don't get too arrogant, because that will hurt you. So coming back to it, confidence was the biggest thing I think that hindered me. I dabbled with code. I did the Python Udemy course. I did a machine learning nano degree at Udacity. So Gabe, you are actually living my dream job. We'll talk about that another day. That's what I actually wanted to do. I figured I better establish my foundation in programming before I ventured out into that. But I was so glad that I finally burned those proverbial ships. And I had a lot of support from my wife and my family, which helped a lot. And I said, look, I know I'm not the best at it. I know I can be if I can dedicate myself to it. And I'm definitely not advocating all of you to quit your jobs and do that right now, but I am encouraging you to look back at your past experience and to build on that confidence and do what you need to do to start working towards that goal, because you don't have to do what I did. You don't have to quit your job and go all in at a program like Techchak or something like that. They will definitely help you. And when you're ready for that, do that. But you can start coding now, build that confidence that way as well. And eventually you can parlay that to your advantage when you break in. So if I had to boil it down to one thing, it was the confidence in myself was the biggest challenge.
So thank you guys for that. I think I'll just add 1 or 2 points to what you guys have already said. I know a lot of people have taken, lots of courses on Udemy, YouTube, and lots of boot camps. But one thing I would say is that allow yourself to grow. The job is not going to fall on your lap overnight. Number one, keep working, keep learning. It's very, very important, because I do trainings, and I've done lots of trainings, and I see people that, they are quite motivated once they start the training. Even after after the training, they're still like motivated, but 2 months, 3 months, when the frustration sets in, when they're not getting that job, they're like, maybe it's not for me. I would say for a fact that the area, the tech space, is now more competitive. Lots of people are transitioning to tech, and I must tell you, what some people even know more than that, and that is why it's very competitive. So as long as you keep learning and allowing yourself to grow, one day you're gonna get into this space that you have been yearning to get into. Learning is endless. And apart from that, apart from allowing yourself to grow, seek out for mentorship. I can't overemphasize the impact of mentorship in my career as a person. I'm someone that always looking out for people to just mentor me and you just help me. Sometimes I do things that I feel like this is just too embarrassing for me, but for me, I know what I want from something. I keep this stuff. Back then, Gabriel knew about all these things. I kept on disturbing Gabriel, like, please help me. I'm struggling. Please help me. I'm sure that he wouldn't sometimes when he sees my call back then, he wouldn't want to pick my call, but I knew what I wanted. So those persistence eventually paid off. And that helped me to build enough confidence to move from data to something different. I moved from data to like product management. And I got enough of confidence from having someone like Gabriel to be my mentor for me to be independent. So allowing yourself to grow, seeking for mentorship, those are also two important points that you need to think about. It's not going to be easy. There are lots of tech layoffs in the tech industry right now. Think about it this way. There'll be lots of people looking for jobs, people that have been laid off. Those people definitely, most of them have more skills than you. You're just starting, right? But don't get discouraged by that. As more tech companies are laying off, lots of tech companies are hiring people. Keep working, keep working, keep learning, seek for mentorship, and it's going to work out at the end of the day. So another question I have for you guys is that, how do you think, what's the role of hands-on projects? How do you think hands-on project impacts your transition into tech or impacts your learning as an individual? What do you want to give more insight about that? For you, Gabriel, hands-on project learning, how did that impact your learning curve as a machine learning engineer and also as a cloud engineer?
So I think I'm glad that you actually went straight into that hands-on learning stuff, because for everything that I've always spoken about, it keeps revolving back to it. And this is something that I experimented myself, and I have a good number of people that can actually testify to it. And because one thing about me is, when I started training people, I wasn't worried about earning money, and the reason is because I already have a job. I earn what is enough for me to keep myself, living and surviving. And the part of even, charging anyone for training and bringing them on was really more to create a commitment on their side and just to create a sort of seriousness. And that being said, I started finding out that people automatically thought maybe like the more money they pay for training or the best quality they get from it. And they assume the quality of training is one thing, but they assume like that is also directly proportional to the kind of knowledge they get without thinking about the amount of work they have to put on themselves. And that's where the hands-on part comes in. And the hands-on part, one thing it does for you, I know James was saying something about confidence as a challenge. And one thing I can tell you for sure is that hands-on increases your confidence to a very good capacity, because myself, when I got into my first job, I just did certification, and because it was easy to get a job then, if you have a certification, I got my first job and I had to learn. I broke stuff that if someone who works now tries it, they'll probably get fired immediately. And I knew if I had, gone through a series of projects, it would have helped me have a good knowledge of, the implications of things I was doing. And there are people that, they finish trainings, they get jobs, and getting on the job itself, the things they were supposed to learn as project is what they are experimenting on at the job. Not every job will give you the opportunity to experiment, except you're working in a very big organization that knows how to decentralize job functionalities and even give you room to learn. Just don't get me wrong. There are jobs that train you. There are jobs that pull you through their training program before you actually start touching up stuff. But a lot of companies out there now, especially because people are, especially if you're looking for a certain amount of salary or you want to make a certain amount of money, you have to have done gone through the process of doing like those hands-on projects. So it builds your knowledge of what you've practically learned. And another thing that hands-on does for you that I have tested out myself is when you do hands-on, just to say a little about myself, I don't like reading. I used to be more like an academic person, but I don't like to put too much things in my head, too much information. And the way I've gotten out of that is by trying to do. And it's crazy because when you read about a concept, you can take 3 days to understand it, possibly. If you try to find a way to practically do that concept, there's a way it just sticks to your head, and it's so tough for you to forget about it. And that's where the experience comes in. So it's doing projects bring about experience that shape you. And whenever you're being asked questions about it, your approach to explaining those concepts is completely different because you're coming from a place of, a very good example is if you have to create an EC2 instance or a server on, an AWS account, you can either read about it and understand and have a good understanding of how to create this, a virtual machine, or you are doing it yourself. There's something that comes about trying to do it, even if you cannot completely finish it up, but the process of getting it done alone leaves a memory in your head that whenever you're asked about how do you do this, just remembering even if it's traumatic to you, that alone brings that experience of what you went through to create it. And you can definitely talk about the challenges, what are the downsides, but you can't do those if you just read those concepts in itself. And also the third part, the third one I want to talk about in terms of project is that there's just something that is fulfilling about the boredom of reading like an old chunk of textbooks or trying to, watch courses unnecessarily. Like we recently uploaded some courses, and when we were creating those courses on Techchak, I was specifically telling the instructor, like, I know you're good, I know you know a lot of things. Please, I want you to structure this course in such a way that whatever the students or whatever the users don't need, you don't have to put it there. You only have to go straight to exactly what they need and then make some other things optional. So there's something about the boredom part, because nobody wants to be reading something continuously and they're not. It's just very vague to them, and they don't have the opportunity to actually practicalize it. So I think that part of boredom also is sort of weeded out for you, and you're actually going straight up and diving into like the house. So yeah, those are like the 3 things I see with projects. I think James can go.
Yeah, and I'm gonna drop a link in the chat to really the biggest and only project that I did, and I think it lends itself to what Gabe just said, where I started with the Udemy course, and I definitely had what you might call course syndrome, where it feels good to complete a course and to keep going through that. But I definitely found that if you're not actually doing projects and coding along with the videos, you might retain a little bit of it. But as Gabe said, you're not going to go through the struggles that you need to go through to really make it click in your head. So the project that I just shared, this is the one that, it's not perfect, but it taught me so much because it brought together, JavaScript on the front end, Python on the back end. It taught me how to use APIs. It taught me how to integrate all the different disciplines that I had kind of tinkered with before into one complete package that I was really passionate about. And yeah, so I really enjoyed putting this together. I think, before I had something like this, everything was abstract and theoretical, but this was an excuse to really solidify the concepts that I learned. And I can tell you that something like this, even though it's not perfect, this was a large part of me getting 3 interviews and only 10 jobs that I applied to, including LinkedIn. So it wasn't just this. And again, it's not perfect, but a good project can make all the difference in the world.
Awesome. That's very interesting. So for people in Scrum and product management, I know it's not pretty like hands-on. You have to do some sort of project. This is where, for me, when I transitioned into this space, one key thing I know I can do is to communicate. And if people should ask me, what can you do? I will tell them, oh, I love to talk. One key thing I ask people, for people that are interested in transitioning to project management and Scrum, is that, do you enjoy communication? And most times people say, oh, I do. Some do say, oh, I don't like being in the faces of people. If you want to move into this part of the IT, you need to enjoy communication. And that is why sometimes it's mostly about building relationship. One of the projects I worked on last year, it involved, working on, microservice. I had no idea what microservice was all about, and I wasn't ready to learn anything. So one key thing I did was, okay, the person, the solutions architect that was hired to help my team out, I built that relationship with him. We're able to come up with like an architecture of what the flow would look like. This is how it would start. I made sure that I built that relationship with him. We created like a multi-sprint plan, to show, okay, this is what we are tackling first. This is how it would flow to the second stage. And this would take us far enough to reach the MVP, which is the minimum viable product. So for me, I know many people are probably have done some sort of training in Scrum, in product, in project management. Again, you need to know enough to communicate, to convince the interviewer that you understand this concept. Once you get on the job, most of the learning is on the job. And on top of that, we, Techchak, for example, we have some sort of training, some projects that you can potentially do. It will still take you back to the concepts that you learned on Udemy, or some of the concepts that you learned in your boot camp. So regardless, all I'm saying is that if you're interested in moving to the tech space, you need to get your hands dirty. And one of the ways is through projects. You need to be able to show to the people, to the interviewers, that you've done this, you understand the concepts, you can communicate about it. You are not just reading something over the internet and thinking they would not know. They would know, because these people, they've been there, they've been doing this for so many years, and they would definitely sniff out if you're just, coming up with some sort of a textbook experience and you're not putting passion into it. And that is very, very important as well. So another question I wanted to ask is that, I know we briefly talked about mentorship. How do you think mentorship can help to make you stand out as you are looking into transitioning into tech?
So for me, I'll speak for myself, and I'll be speaking from a mentee's viewpoint, and I'll be speaking from a mentor's viewpoint. So I would say, let's say in cloud or data space, or anything like AWS, whatever cloud is to you. I think the mentorship part, it goes two ways. So some people want mentors, but some people don't know they want teachers. So I think the issue is that people get mentors and they think that mentor is responsible to teach them each and every concept they need to know. And it's crazy, because a mentor is not supposed to do that. A mentor is just there as someone you look up to and guide. They just give you the right guide, provided if they, of course, they have to schedule times with you. Like a good mentor will schedule time with you, have conversations with you. And I think that we even need to talk about choosing a mentor in the first place. I think that's where we should start from. There are different things you need to look out for in a mentor. First of all, you shouldn't be, if you want to go into data science, data analytics, shouldn't be looking for a mentor that doesn't do it or that's never been there before. I think as ridiculous as that sounds, some people do it. Like, just because someone is held in high regard doesn't necessarily mean you are, automatically going to see them as someone that can mentor you. So you have to look out for what they have done, what they are doing. Of course, you're attracted to them because you've seen their success and you've seen testimonies from them. But it's important for you to actually find those that are doing what you want to do. And that's one. Now, when you find a mentor, I think we'll talk about how to find a mentor also. We kind of like speak things around it. Maybe James can go around that. But when you find a mentor, it's important for you to now start understanding how to build independence. And independence in a sense that even when you get a job today, you need independence to sustain the job, because most of jobs that are in tech, they will have you doing things yourself in order to achieve certain goals. So when you have a story assigned, that's why they get you paid. When you have a story assigned to you, you have a task assigned to you at work, you can of course call your mentor and ask them about what they think about what you should do, but it still falls back on you to do like the right research. If you have a good mentor, they would not spend too much amount of hours trying to help you figure out everything. A good mentor will actually push you and help you stand on your own. And that's something that we should be careful about when we're looking for mentors. We shouldn't necessarily depend on them 100% for a lot of things. And personally, what I look out for in people that are looking for mentorship, the mentees, I want them to come to me, and not, of course, no one hasn't figured it out yet. I'm also looking for mentors myself. So when people come to me and ask for mentorship, I look at a few things. I look at the level of information they are already trying to get. So some people come and just directly say, hey, I want you to mentor me. And then you ask them, what do you want to mentor in? And they're asking you to help them with like, to choose a space. Not like I can't do that, but the thing is like, what research have you done on your own to even know what you want? And that's very important to a lot of people, because you come up very unserious when you come and you expect someone to figure out what you want to do, because you know so much about yourself than I do know about you. So the only thing I can do in that sense is to probably get more information from you and say, okay, how about you do some research? Go to these places, go to those places and figure out this information on your own. I think it's important to not overburden a mentor with so many, loads of responsibilities, because some mentors don't even care about getting paid. Some want to get paid, and some are just either like, between both, like neutral. So I think it's important to sort of like not put too much burden on your mentors, because they're humans like you. And also, while you're going through a mentorship program, I think it's important for you to also ask questions. And this still boils down to burden, right? If you have questions and you have a bunch of things that information you're trying to get, or questions you haven't answered, it's good for you to put those questions together as a bulk, as opposed to, imagine someone buzzes you like every hour asking questions. I think it's going to get to a point that you probably just not reply them again, or you tell them you don't want to do it again. So I think it's important to actually find, periodic intervals of when you want to have meetings with them, and make sure those meetings are very impactful, and you take as much loads of information as you can, and prove to them that you've done your research. I think it's quite impressive when you've gone to Google, you've gone to, I guess, ChatGPT, whatever, done so many independent work on yourself, and you're coming to me to say, I have this question, but this is what I have done. It's quite impressive when you come in that way. And also, looking out for a mentor, also be very careful. Like, there are some mentors that they do not want you to go above certain points. It's crazy. And it's probably not a conversation that we should be having, but I think it's just the truth. Some mentors want to keep you at a certain limit. I think you should look out for people that try to hold you back, or draw you back, or want you to continuously depend on them. I think it's, especially in tech, you can never grow that way. So as a mentor, and as someone who has like helped hundreds of people, I look forward to me coming to you at some point to get help, because I feel like you should continuously keep growing. And I'm happy even when I have people that work. I have a lot of mentees that make way more than I make now. And it's my joy, because it's easier for me to now see them soaring in different areas, and I'm proud of them. And I even continuously keep referring other people to them to continuously help them. And I think it's very interesting to carefully choose people that would not limit you. And the way you can track these signs are when you're trying to make certain moves, and they are continuously not, of course, there is a very thin line between that. So you have to be careful that some mentors are making sure you're safe and they are looking out for you, while some mentors are intentionally just trying to limit you to a certain spot. So you have to be very careful about the kind of mentors you choose, because they can actually impact you in those ways. So those are like the few things that I have to say about mentorship, but we'll definitely go into more details about how mentorship works at Techchak and how, we do it too.
Yeah, Gabe, I just want to, I guess, reiterate your point that a good mentor should empower you and not handcuff you. So I know for the few people that I've mentored, the best feeling in the world is when they, I don't want to say stop reaching out to you, but they basically, spread their wings and fly and
Yep.
become, what they want to be. That's the best feeling in the world. And
Yeah.
those are the type of mentorships that you should seek out. So that I just wanted to double click on that because that was a great point. I underestimated the power of mentorship up until just a couple of years ago during my transition. Today, I tell people that, a mentor can help you become your future self today because they've been through what you're going to go through. And if they're good at what they're doing and a true mentor, they can help you, traverse those waters. So these are things I think to keep in mind and to look out for as you have conversations with potential mentors. And I'll just speak about my experience quickly with mentors. The first real official mentor, I guess, was during my program. So maybe similar to the Techchak mentors. When I was in my boot camp, I was paired with a mentor. And, I guess I kind of approached it with a little bit of an open mind, but I was kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever, a mentor. But in hindsight, he taught me so much, not just on the technical level, but in preparation for the next level. He really told me how, software companies work, how the day-to-day works, project planning, all kinds of things that, things that you don't even think to Google is the way that I really remembered it. So these are things that mentorships can provide. And now that I'm in an apprenticeship at LinkedIn, I am also paired with a mentor. And it's, I don't want to say a better version of that, but a different version of that because this mentor is on my team. And anytime I have any questions, either at the micro level or the macro, I know that I can go to him and I can ask questions and he will always point me in the right direction. And so just to close out my thoughts, there's, you can explicitly seek out mentorship, or it can also happen organically. And I want to speak to that latter situation really quick because at LinkedIn, it was funny. I got put into a meeting by mistake, apparently, when I was onboarding with a totally different division. And it was a senior director that challenged the group of us to schedule a coffee chat with one of the directors within the next 30 days. And it was about 2 weeks later. And I said, you know what? I'm going to accept this challenge. I'm going to schedule a coffee chat and let's see what happened. It was uncomfortable for me. But again, I feel like that's how you grow. So long story short there, he accepted the coffee chat. We had a great conversation and now we meet on a quarterly basis. And, the perspective that he has provided me from that senior director level at a company like LinkedIn has been absolutely invaluable. So all of that is to say, mentorship doesn't have to be planned. It can be serendipitous when it happens. And I would just encourage you to look out for opportunities like that, either officially, like through Techchak, or organically through your day-to-day interactions with people.
Awesome. We have a couple questions. I wouldn't talk about mentorship, but I think I've touched on this, and the speakers have really done a very good job of talking about it. So someone said, I'm currently in my pre-coding class, and there are so many concepts all at once. How do I learn them efficiently? Does anybody among you guys want to answer that?
So I think James will most likely have the best answer to that, but I can also say something before James goes. So, and this is about, someone who is currently in a coding, I think I'm trying to read a question.
Class, yeah.
Yep. So it's a lot of information. So this is actually a very, very interesting question that a lot of people face. And I will say that because I'll give you an example. Let's say Python, you're learning Python now, and there's so many things to unravel. First of all, you have to learn the concept of working with variable types, different working with like data types, variable types, functions, either loops, whatever those things are. So it's interesting because it's completely normal and it's fine for a lot of these things to just fly to you. And it's like, what is important is you are understanding the concept at that point in time when you're learning it. Now, where everything all ties together is when you're trying to do a project. And everything will still keep going back to project. And if you think about it, just for a very, very plain, simple example of how that works. When I started learning Python, there was a concept of loops, meaning you iterating over like a list or whatever that is. At that point in time, it never made sense to me. Like, why are we doing the loops? Why can't we just write out what we want and we just continuously keep doing it that way? And at some point, I got to the level of understanding, okay, we're doing this because we need to make our life easier. But eventually, when I got into cloud, and there are certain things we need to start doing. For example, you have like 5,000 servers. And then those 5,000 servers, you need to perform the same operation on them. And then you needed to like run a process that you're not repeating your codes or you're not doing. And then everything started coming together. And I started realizing that, okay, this is why we're doing loops. And you would even starting off with that, you're trying to solve a business problem. I think one of the most complicated things to think of, to wrap your head around is, okay, what exactly do I use to solve this problem? And that's where I think Google is one of the best things. I feel like a lot of people underestimated the power of Google, and they still do. Honestly, make use of Google as much as you can, because I think ChatGPT is even taking us by, very big surprise now, because it's even like that on steroids. So I think it's important for you to understand that all of the concept coming to you now, especially when you're in the early stage, just take them, just continuously keep taking them. Try your best to understand each of them. You might be going to the next concept and you've forgotten what the previous one is. Don't worry about it. You eventually come back to it. Because one of the biggest problems is that you get overwhelmed because you're learning this and you're trying to understand what this is, and then something else is coming and you move to the next one and you forgot what you learned previously before that. And it's like, okay, should I keep going or go back to that concept? What I do, and the way I've approached this, is I just keep, as long as I understand it in time, at that point in time, and I move to the next and I don't understand it again, I don't worry about it. I understand that I'll eventually tie them together. So a good course or a good program, at the end of that program, would now pick the most important concepts you've learned and try to build out something out of it. Then it's easier for you to remember them, because at a certain point in time before, you've actually handled it. So when you go back to it, it's like, oh, this is it again. And you're eventually tying them together. And that is exactly where projects comes into play. I think you can never go wrong when it comes to projects. It's always something that I have seen, I've experienced myself, and I've also helped people with it. So just keep learning, I would say, and keep receiving the information and understand it at a point in time, and eventually find a way to tie them together. And that's where you find groups, find projects, ask your question and your mentors questions about it. Now, one more thing, pro tip that I think you should also do: no matter how much you think you don't know, you know enough to help someone else. So try to talk about what you learn to people. Like, if you have the opportunity to talk about it to someone, try to explain it to them. Then you will start understanding if you know what you really know. You don't have to teach them. You can probably be on like having a chat with someone and just bring it in. What do you do? Just tell them about what you've been learning. If they are open to listening to you, I think that's another way to continuously keep retaining this information, and it's not like you're being overwhelmed. But I would let James go and probably dive more into coding, anything that has to do with coding parts.
Yeah, well, just to double click on that last bit again, see if you can explain it to your wife, your girlfriend, your boyfriend,
Yep.
because that'll really help you solidify it. Because I still try to do that with the things that I learn, and I realize I struggle with things, and then I'm like, okay, I need to go back to the basics, brush up, and try to explain it again. And like Gabe was saying, that really solidifies those concepts. But going back to the root of the question, it looks like there's a lot of new concepts, how to learn them efficiently. I would definitely say, coding wise or otherwise, don't worry about retaining every single piece of everything you see. Kind of like what Gabe said, you're going to be introduced to new concepts and you're going to implement those things eventually. And remember, you can always reference back to the documentation, to the project, to whatever you're doing. So on another note, one of the biggest mistakes I made early on in my career was I took notes of every single thing that I was learning. And if this works for you, I guess that's okay. I don't want to deter you from that, but I would encourage you to consider not doing that, because what I found, especially if you've got good documentation with whatever framework that you're working in, you can always reference back to that documentation and maybe bookmark the link or something like that. Don't waste the time writing what you can already find unless it helps you retain that information. Everybody's different. I just wanted to give my perspective on that. And then to close it out, aim to get 1% better every day. You're going to have good days when everything feels like it's working, and you're going to have bad days when you question your existence. I still have those bad days. I work at LinkedIn and I'm like, who am I? Why am I here? Because nothing is working. And the biggest thing I think that helps me in situations like that when I'm stuck, it's hard to do, but to just walk away for a little bit, go for a walk, have a drink, non-alcoholic, do something, and then come back and you'll have a fresh perspective. And it's amazing how often you'll suddenly have the answer to something. So that was, I think we answered the question a lot of different ways, but those are the biggest things that stuck out to me in terms of trying to efficiently learn a lot of new concepts. Basically, trust the process, try to get 1% better every day.
Also, just to add to that, there will always be good days. There will always be bad days. As you're learning, always have that back of your mind that some days or some weeks will be absolutely beautiful. Some weeks will be horrible. Sometimes I've been in, even when you get a job, it's not every week that you're gonna be like meeting your goals as an individual. So have it at the back of your mind that regardless, there'll be good days, there'll be bad days. Even your vice president, your CEO, they are also in these bottle as well. So there will always be good days, there will always be bad days. So the other question I have is that is data analytics scalable? I really don't understand that question very well. What's the best route? Do you mean, is it scalable? I don't understand the scalable aspect of this question, but the other part of it is that what's the best route to get into data analytics?
The best route to get into data analytics, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a very great question, and I get a lot of that question. So especially my DMs, oh my God, it's crazy. And one thing I always say is because I started with data analysis, and that's sort of like my entry point into the old cloud and whatever I do now. And I have a lot of people that I've directly or indirectly influenced to go through exactly the same route. And I think one thing to start with is that not to overcomplicate what data analysis is, right? So and also not to mix things up. There is the data analysis, and I'm highly recommending the next events, which is going to be sometimes in February. It's going to be like finding the exact thing you want. It's going to be specific. So we will be doing events that are actually specific to an actual specialization. So the next one is going to be on data analytics, but I'm going to quickly touch into this part. Like finding your way into that space is, first of all, do not complicate it. I think the analytics part or the science part makes people go crazy. And it's important of course, you also have to be sure that you actually want to do it. However, there are different ways to get into it. I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that people think about these crazy tools that people use for data analysis, or they just start up doing data science and they don't know they don't want to do data science. And I promise you, a lot of people want to do data analysis, but they think it's data science. They're two completely different concepts, which I don't want to even go into today. For data analysis, you can learn something as simple, I won't say simple, something as just basic as Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel is not basic, by the way. It could get wide. So I don't want to go into that once again, but you can start off by, I think the first entry point I always recommend is Excel. Excel is the most widely used data analysis tool in the world that I know, except there's something else right now. So Microsoft Excel is, and it's pretty wide. And a lot of companies are still, even companies that, even Amazon, they have roles that they are looking for Microsoft Excel experts, because there's some problems that companies have been solving for years, and they are still sticking back to Microsoft Excel. So getting into data analysis, I think you should just start from Microsoft Excel. And so at Techchak, we actually have, we created like some pre-recorded courses, because we feel like one of the things, like a lot of trainings out there are expensive, and we understand because people need to get compensated for their time. So we have like pre-recorded courses in data analysis that are, I think they are quite affordable, as low as, we're trying to make them as low as probably $50, like that low, or even give it out for free if we know you actually need them and you don't have any means of paying for them. So that would take you from like a beginners to like advanced, and it covers all of the concept you need to understand. So once you're done with that, we move them to the next phase, which is like SQL, like SQL. And you can either use any of this, you can either work with, of course, SQL is structured query language, and you can either work with maybe different type of systems for like SQL servers, like maybe Microsoft SQL, or you're working with MySQL, or you're even going as far as working with data warehouse, like maybe Snowflake and Oracle and a lot of those. But those are like different, another different part entirely. But it's important for you to understand how SQL works and how to run queries and how to logically put queries together and optimize them. Once you can understand, I think those two alone can in fact, Microsoft Excel itself can land you a job, but it's good enough to now add, concept like SQL concept, and then now think about creating visualizations, which is you can actually choose maybe Power BI, or you want to choose Tableau. Recently, I've seen Power BI overtake Tableau in the past couple of years. You can quote me wrong if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen recently is so much opportunities open for people in Power BI. And that sort of like puts you in like, I don't want to say a box, but like a package for Microsoft, because you can learn Excel, Microsoft SQL, which is using SQL Server Management Studio, which is SSMS, to query like whatever Microsoft database you've spinned up. And then you're wrapping that up with Power BI, which is also a product of Microsoft. So I think it's important to like follow this type of pattern to at least get yourself. I think you should start with Microsoft Excel to see if you want to really do it, because Microsoft Excel will actually expose you to most concepts you would do, but at maybe like the steroid level if you're doing Python and you're trying to replicate the same thing you did in Excel. So it's that, I don't want to say it's that simple, but it's that straightforward for you to know if you want to do it or not. And if you want to go way out of, go wild, you can actually go into data science. And that requires you to learn certain tools like Python. Like you should not be thinking about data science if you don't want to use tools like Python, or you don't want to write codes. Of course, not core programming like maybe James does, but if you want to get into like the part of automation and dealing with like, complex data set and making decisions. And that's by the technical side. Then there is like the decision-making parts. A lot of people think data analysis is just using these tools, putting data sets together, creating tables and all that stuff. But a lot of it is actually logical decisions. Like you could get a very good, simple example is your company gets sales every year, and they have, every month, and they have a specific amount that comes in as revenue, and they want that, and within a certain period of time you start noticing certain trends. You should be able to see what the revenue looks like, create like a trend line, however that wants to be. Think about, when you're looking at like a dashboard for stock exchange or whatever, and then understand that when something drops and if it goes up again, you can make logical decisions out of that. Like within a specific month, you probably had a drop in sales. So you should be able to make decisions or recommend or create recommendations. And those are like the soft part. And a lot of companies look out for that, people that can actually create decisions out of the kind of data set they have. Give you a very good example of how data set, I wish, okay, during our data analysis section, I'm going to go more into this, but even at Techchak, we are making decisions with the kind of data set we have. We have access to the category of people, like the level of expertise they have, and we use those information to actually know what kind of content to put out for people and how to help people better. That's how we're helping you better. And that's how we're knowing, okay, we have more people that want to get into tech. If I don't have access to the data set, I'm not going to know to make that decision to even create this webinar. So this webinar we're having today is because we have access to people's, not people's data, don't misquote me, but we have access to what people want. Meaning we have a lot of people that are saying, I don't know what to do, I want to get into tech. So we have probably about 60% of our users saying that. Then the next decision for me to make is that, okay, why don't we create a session, a webinar on how to, explain these routes to people and help them plan their journey. If I don't have access to the data sets that tells me that information, I can't make that decision. And that is me as a data analyst, making decision, even though I'm making the decision for myself and my team, is still technically I'm still the one, looking at the data set, understanding the trend, and then creating logical decisions out of that. So it's a lot of common sense concept in data analysis. I'm going to drop a link to our YouTube that has probably like, I think 4 or 5 videos that, talks about, that just walks you through like the introducing you to data analysis from Excel, and you can probably make some decision from that if you really want to like, look into it, but it's going to be quite helpful.
Yeah, just to add to what Gabriel just said. At Techchak, what we've done is that we've created a roadmap for learning. So take, for example, now you are interested in cloud, you're interested in data, we let you start from the basics. And we are increasing that by bringing more videos, based on your level of understanding. We are actually calling it like a roadmap. So you're going to start from the basics and you're going to walk your way through from basics to expert. And as you're finishing finishing learning concepts as an entry-level person, you get to work on projects that fits in within what you've learned. And then you move from there to something intermediate, and then you get to work on projects like that. And then we want to build you, we want to make you start from the scratch and then build on whatever you've learned from there and then take it forward from there. So essentially, the way we are trying to structure the whole experience for people transitioning into tech is that we want to make sure that they start from the basics, and from there they move to more complex problems and things like that. That's the way we've structured it, and I believe it's going to be more efficient for people moving into the tech space because they're going to learn a lot of concepts and they can talk about it during an interview. And one key thing I've seen people, especially people learning from these boot camps would not necessarily give you the opportunity. And once you're done with the boot camp, most times you do not have access to these instructors anymore, and you are basically on your own. So one key thing that we've also done at Techchak is that as you're learning this concept, you're not alone. Especially if you are a premium subscriber, you still have access to mentors that will potentially point you in the right direction. So regardless, you are not alone. And that is how efficient we think we can be to make an impact in the lives of people, aspiring tech professionals that are transitioning to tech. I know we've spent a lot of time talking about different concepts and everything. So I don't know if my boss, Gabriel gives, we would be wrapping things up by 12:30, but if he wants us to, continue with the conversation, we can continue with the conversation. But again, this would not be the end of this kind of webinar. We're going to be having people come to talk about different concepts. Next conversation we're going to be having will be just focused on data. The next conversation will be focused on cloud. We'll also talk about product management, project management. So there will be ample opportunities to really, really do a deep dive into all these subject areas. So we are not just giving you generic information about different subjects. We want to streamline, people's experience, right? We want to make sure that you're learning. If you want to move into the data analytics space, we're going to show you these are things that you need to start learning, and then we do a deep dive. We're going to have that kind of webinar. Same goes for cloud. I know there are lots of questions about, cloud, about data, about product management and things like that. But, because of time, we want to be respectful of people's time. We want to make sure that we want to tell you that we're going to have more conversations around these subjects. And I'll just let Gabriel talk if we need to extend this conversation for another 30 minutes, or we can wrap things up by 12:30.
Yeah, I think I would, I want us to extend it by like 20 minutes. And because I also want James to talk about, I think I've listened to James' podcast and I've seen a lot of amazing things. And also there are some questions people specifically have about Techchak, because we want to make sure we are actually doing the right thing, and we're actually answering some of these questions. I think I'll let John just talk about a little about, what he does with his, podcast. I've listened to some of them, and I'm still going to listen to more because I have them pinned on my phone. And honestly, I think one thing that you can also gain from is actually listening to the experience of other people. You get so much relevant information from that, and it's also easy to retain them. I think there's just something about audio learning that also helps me too. And I think John is doing something, James is doing something that is amazing and very fantastic that I don't see a lot of people do. And I think, everyone should actually check him out for sure. But James, I don't know if you want to like just tell us about, what has been your, matter of fact, I want you to even tell us about the inspiration behind what you're building with your podcast.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, so I told my story, and I feel like in hindsight, I got very lucky to land where I did, and I'm well aware of that. And it was about a month ago now that I was reflecting on that and trying to think about how I could basically pay it forward for people like me going through that, but maybe weren't willing to, burn those ships and to embrace it. And I guess after thinking for a while and talking with different people, I landed on a podcast where I basically bring on people from non-traditional backgrounds that have
Nice.
broken into tech, basically. And one of the first conversations I had was with a teacher. He was a teacher for over a decade. I don't know how old he was exactly. I would think in his 40s, perhaps, maybe not quite, but he did it. And it's all to say, just like Gabe mentioned, the goal behind it is to empower people like you to have the blueprint that I never had. I never knew anybody that broke into tech, which is why it took me 35 years to figure out how to do it. And I'm trying to help spread the word, spread success stories. It's no expertise on my part. It's got everything to do with the stories of these people and what they've been through and things that you might be able to glean from them. So thank you, Gabe, for letting me talk about that. And back to the data world, this Tuesday, I actually have a fellow LinkedIn Reach apprentice that has moved into data science from public relations. So just in case that's of interest, that'll be available on all the major podcast players on Tuesday. And yeah, we release one new episode every Tuesday, maybe more in the future. And I'm really, really excited. And I would hope to bring some of you on in the future to tell your own success stories.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think I'm definitely going to tune in to check that out. I really want to hear that, like you said from public relations into data
Yep,
science.
she was in public relations. She had an amazing story. All the stories are amazing, but yeah, she was in public relations. She was a digital nomad for a little while, and eventually she worked her way. I don't want to spoil it, but yeah, she landed at LinkedIn
Yeah.
as a data scientist.
That's great. So guys, please just, tune in. I think you dropped the link. So I'm going to also send that link after this meeting. We're going to send out a public notification to people. Thank you so much for that, James. I think there's a question here that I am specifically interested in answering. So any pointers? So someone is asking about Techchak. I would like to ask, when projects are completed, don't we get a solution documentation just to see how it's done properly? So this is actually a very good question. So I would start from the course of recreating problems, and we are not necessarily putting the answers there. And I'll tell you what current next steps we are taking to actually make this possible. So we found out that we have a lot of different platforms, so many of them that, give you certain information on how to step-by-step process on how to complete certain projects. And we feel like that was not helpful enough. It was helpful, but it was only helpful to satisfy your current needs at that time. So our thought was let's put our project, especially because a lot of people are just looking for jobs. So when you get a job, you will not get the answers to the questions or the task they want you. That's why you're there, to actually solve this problem. So we are creating that avenue where we're giving you the opportunity, like you have a job, and we want you to leverage Google. We want you to leverage your own research. We want you to actually work hard to actually get those solutions. Now, if you're currently going through that phase and you're still struggling, we created an internal chat where we have support that are actually hired by Techchak. They actually directly work with us, and they are there to actually listen and just, you can put your questions there and they can give you a walkthrough. However, we would eventually release the functionality that actually shows the documentation, but that would be for beginners level. and you will probably not get it for intermediate and the advanced one because but you will be able to probably shadow other people's work as much as you want and work with a group. And most importantly, we're also creating mentorship. Let's say you're going through that phase where you need a mentor, and we can actually pair you up with someone. So one of the things we're doing to that effect is like we have a lot of people that have signed up to be mentors, and we are strategizing how to pair them up with the right people. I think the right people is very important because it's not just about finding a mentor, but finding the right one. So we are getting specific information from people that need those mentors and asking them, what are you looking for this mentorship? So people are not looking for jobs, as funny as it sounds. Some people are just looking for someone to build some level of confidence in them and to feel fulfilled. And that's one thing. And there are some people that they are directly looking for jobs and they just want someone to train and coach them towards that route. And also another question we have here is with projects, how do we stand out in terms of positioning ourselves for job? From what should be in our CV, and also as members of Techchak, do we get career days? Definitely you get career days as members of Techchak. So we are currently rolling out a feature in 2 weeks, I think a week, but I'll give it like 2 weeks just to be safe, where we periodically pair people into groups, and then we will be having like conversations like this, but you'll probably be not a lot of people because we want it to be really focused on like specific group, and that would definitely be announced, and you will get like subsequent emails about that. And also in terms of the project and how you stand out in positioning yourself for jobs. So one thing about this is jobs are also experience, like job interviews are also experiences. I think one of the biggest thing is you cannot say you've not done interviews before and you want to land a job on your first or second interview. So if you keep running away from interviews, you would eventually go through what you have to go through to get the experience to actually know what you don't know. So I know James, from what James was saying the other time, he spoke about his experiences, like not every interview went well. Of course, as professional as I think, or as you think I am, I failed a couple of interviews in like maybe a couple of weeks ago. I probably had 3 interviews at some point and I didn't get a job. And that's not even necessarily because maybe some are because I'm not even good enough. And it can be that, serious that I am not good enough for the job, or I don't even understand, the kind of questions they're asking me and I'm not qualified for it. And that's fine. And just understand that you have to continuously keep interviewing, and that builds your experience. And it's important for you not to repeat the same mistakes you made from a previous interview. I think that's one thing that everyone who is good with interviews will tell you. Like when I do an interview, I go back, I reflect on it. Even before I get my feedback, I ask myself, what did I do wrong on this? I don't ever want to repeat the same mistake I made in this current interview in the next one. And that continuously helps you. And you will start finding out a pattern after a while, especially if you are appealing to a specific niche, or you're getting into a specific industry. You start finding patterns of questions that you just cannot avoid. We would add another session or some other sessions on interviewing techniques that we will talk more about this, but it's important for you to understand the different stages. There are the behavioral stage, there is the technical stage, there is like just cultural fit stage, and different stages, even coding rounds that you probably face, and it's okay for you to fail them, and you just have to learn how to build yourself onto the next stage. When you get another interview, make sure you've learned from the previous mistakes you made. So we'll talk more about that. I'm a cloud DevOps, just starting out. Any pointers? Well, I'm not sure if you're a cloud DevOps, like you're already working as a DevOps engineer, or you're trying to be a DevOps engineer. And this is another thing we would address. So if you've never been in tech before, or you're just starting out in cloud, do not get into DevOps directly. DevOps is a completely different niche that you can eventually branch out into. I think a lot of people start out and the first thing they want to learn is DevOps. I think it's important for you to learn the basics of cloud, the different services, how those services interact, and you start putting them together. So learning DevOps directly is when you don't know how to do something manually and you're trying to jump into the automation part. It's important for you to know how to do the manual step before you jump into automating. I think that's mistakes a lot of people make. And what that does to you, it gets you frustrated, you get tired, you feel like you can't do it. It's a simple because you don't know how to manually do those things. So a lot of people that I have trained in the past, I try to explain the manual concept to them. This is how you manually do it. When it comes to automation, it makes more sense to them and they are able to like tie everything together. But we will talk more about that. How do we subscribe for premium? Actually, we've not rolled out this feature yet. So this will be published. Did I say published? This will be rolled out in about a week or 2 weeks, I believe. Yeah. And we would send out as much information as you would want to ask on that. How can I join Techchak? Wow. Okay. www.techchak.com. I'm gonna put it right in the chat. Techchak.com. That's how you can join Techchak. And also, what we do is we want to start having support sessions where people can come and just ask people questions. And our support, we attend to you and like sort of like a disaster 911 plan where you're just coming in and you're having specific problems and you want those problems solved in real time. And we try to respond as soon as we can also. Can you speak on cybersecurity, the pros, cons, how to get in? Honestly, I don't know about cybersecurity and I don't want to go into what I don't know. But here's the thing, we're going to have AY, I think we're having like some events coming up
Yeah.
related to security. I would definitely not, I don't want to say something I don't know, so I don't give you the wrong information. But here's the thing, I do know. We have some mentors that signed up to be mentors for cybersecurity, IT audits. The only thing I know about cybersecurity is security in the cloud, which is, vulnerabilities, creating roles, policies, assignment, and all those things. When it comes to cybersecurity, I'm not the right person to, ask, but eventually we would have a session on cybersecurity. What do you recommend as an efficient pipeline to get into cloud computing space for someone that is just starting their journey in tech? I am currently going for CompTIA certification. So if you're just starting out for cloud computing, I think one of the things, so there is a video that we put up that just lists like a bunch of like understanding like how to Linux as an operating system and how to operate and work around it. I think you should check out that video. We're going to send you those videos as they're on YouTube, and it's about three different videos that you can watch. And those videos so the reason we are doing this is because we don't want you to get into something you don't like, because a Techchak is not about getting the money or getting you to sign up. No, it's really about you actually finding your purpose in it and making sure you actually want to do it. And what we're doing is we're throwing out about maybe like one module. Watch one module of the introduction to the course and let us know if it's something you really want to do. And if you want to do it, you can sign up and just get on it, and you'll get support while you're watching those courses. I think one of the things we bring into our system is that we try to support people as they are going, but we don't want them to be completely dependent on Techchak, but we want Techchak to be there for them. And that's why it's cheap. I wouldn't say it's cheap, it's affordable, I would say. I think that's the right word to say. And you should be able to afford, with the way we've planned it, it's not expensive. Like it's very affordable. So you don't have to worry about spending thousands of dollars. I mean, if you have to, and you find trainings that do that, of course, that's completely fine. But we are not trying to be burdens on you or trying to make you spend your fortune just because you want to get a training. I think that's one of the things that we're trying to help people with. I already have okay, someone said I am currently, okay, I have a good resource for cyber, another program, shall I share? Please, yeah, please do share, because we currently don't have a cybersecurity program on Techchak right now, but please do share. And that's because we are continuously helping people. We are giving them the right information on where to find other trainings, and we're even collaborating with, different organizations. Thank you so much for that, James. That's really helpful. I have a question here that says, I am currently learning Azure, and a lot of people are telling me AWS is way better than Azure. What is your take on that? Well, my take on that, I love AWS, so I would tell you AWS is better, but that's not a fact. It's just my sentiment, and I can tell you it's definitely that person's sentiment. And I'll say this because I am currently working on a project now, and matter of fact, I am leading the project, and it's an Azure project. It's crazy because I have never done Azure in my life, but I know so much AWS that when I got on Azure, all I needed to do was to, try to peer the concepts. It's like you're doing the same thing, but you're doing it on different brands. So that's practically what it means. So if you're learning Azure now, I would say keep learning it. But I want to be careful of how I'm putting this, so I don't mislead you. However, there's something I know. I know there are so many opportunities in AWS cloud. There are a lot of opportunities in it. However, there's also a lot of opportunities in Azure. Maybe I don't even know because I don't do a lot of Azure, but I would say if you're learning Azure, keep learning it. And when it's time for you to pick up AWS, it's probably not going to be a big deal to you because understanding the concept are the same. It's just different ways of executing. So you can continuously keep going that route. And of course, we have mentors and on Techchak. If you ever want to contact someone to ask more about this, I think it's going to be very useful for you also. I don't know, AY, do you want to put down a lot of these links that we're sharing so we can put them out to people? We also have a question that says, I already have my Scrum Master certification since May. I'm applying for jobs, but I'm not getting any callbacks. What can I do?
Yeah, so this is when mentorship, because we have so many people in the Scrum space and product space right now. So I think probably your resume probably needs to be worked on, and you can reach out to us on Techchak. I think we have a support at techchak.com. You can, if you're not already on Techchak, you can sign up. We have our product and project management space where you can ask these questions. Will be available to answer your questions. So I think what you may need is just to look into your resume. I've probably have like 1 or 2 sessions, and we can work on your resume together, and you can start applying for jobs. And that's not the first order that you would face. The other order would be, you'll be applying for jobs, and probably if it not work out well, again, don't be scared. It's absolutely normal. So you just keep improving on your interview skill, taking skills, and eventually you will get there. Again, try to sign up, and you can reach out to us at support@techchak.com, or we have once you sign up, we have some messaging. If you go to messaging, you would see product management. You can ask your questions in both spaces, and we'll be happy to assist you.
Okay, that's thank you so much, AY, for that. I think we have another question that says we're not having access to Techchak portal from 16th of January for free. How should we go about getting access to it? You can actually have access for free, of course. I mean, we're not going to lock you out of the platform. That's not going to happen. So you will be able to get access to Techchak. However, there are some things that we would not necessarily give out for free. And that's an example of that is when it comes to you doing a project and you need support on that project. However, here's what you can do. So you can actually connect with mentors on the platform or people that are willing to help you out and have like this peer sessions where you can learn together. And that's because people that are helping you, it actually comes at a cost to keep them there and keep motivating them to continuously keep going. And however, it's also not expensive. And if you're outside of the United States, if you're in like, I think if you're anywhere within the regions of Africa, I think we're creating like a discrimination for payments in terms of payments where you can actually pay significantly lower than people that are outside of the US. And just reach out on that, and we'll definitely tell you the next steps to do. Is being skilled in Microsoft Excel and SQL alone enough to get a job as a data analyst? But I got my first job as a data analyst with only Microsoft Excel knowledge, and that was all I was doing. So having SQL is probably even a better advantage. Of course, now it's more competitive and all that, but yes, the answer is yes. It's actually enough to get you a job. But if you want to spice it up, just add a visualization to it. I'll choose Power BI, just my sentiment. I don't have any specific reasons, but just choose Power BI. That's mine. But maybe you can also check out Tableau, but I would choose Power BI. Will Techchak provide interview tips? Oh, yes. So one of the things we're doing is we like I said before, we'll be creating like peer sessions where we're having a group of people. That's if you're on there's a specific plan for that. And you can also reach out to support@techchak.com to get more information about it. We will be helping with interview tips when it comes to like the aspect of getting a job, completing your project and all of those. Definitely you will get that.
And also for premium users on the platform, we will be having webinar sessions like this where we'll be talking about interview, how to answer questions, the structure, and the common questions that we've seen interviewers ask during the interview. And this will be exclusive to just premium users, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Great. Now, another question says, in reality, is it easier to get into data analysis than cloud computing? So I've been into both, and I would say I don't want to sound offensive to anyone, in that space, but I would say it's relatively easier to get the skill sets in data analysis faster than getting it in cloud. And the reason is because if you're starting out, forget about when people say, oh, be a cloud expert in 6 weeks. You cannot be a cloud expert in 6 weeks. I guarantee you that. And a lot of people will tell you that, so you can never get to that point. But I think as it relates to data analysis, you can learn just Microsoft Excel in probably a very short period of time and quickly position yourself enough to get, your first project. But then it looks like for you to now continuously keep building and sustaining your expertise, you have to keep learning and keep growing. So from my experience, most of the people that I have trained and I have mentored, they find it's fairly easy to get into data analysis than cloud. And because data analysis, you don't necessarily need to do a certification. I'm not saying there are no certifications, but no one is going to ask you what kind of certification do you have in data analysis that you want to get a job. So I would say it's easier, but don't quote me. Like some data analysis jobs are very tough, while you can actually get some cloud engineering jobs that I have a friend actually, still my friend. I have a friend that got a job as a cloud engineer, and guess what he does on the job? He's just doing compliance, and that compliance is, I think, 2 times a month. He runs a report of the systems that are being tagged, the services, look at the cost, compare them, and he still has to download them, do like a comparison and submit them. And that's his job. And he makes like 130K a year. And I'm like, what? And I'm here building out systems from scratch, building servers, working with application developers. And so it can be fairly, it can be relative. So but overall, data analysis and cloud computing is way, tougher to break into, but you can do it if you connect with the right people. Currently learning SQL and Udemy and learning Microsoft Excel. Yeah, so like I said, Microsoft Excel and SQL is enough. Just make sure you're doing projects, please. Make sure you're doing projects, and that's why we have Techchak for you. Can you speak on machine learning as a specialty? Realistically speaking, how do you see the industry developing in the near future? Thank you. Okay, so this when it comes to like machine learning as a specialty, I think one of the things is that is important is to actually understand that you can be a machine learning engineer and you are not necessarily doing what a data scientist is doing. That's the kind of machine learning engineering I do. So of course I work with data scientists. However, I am not responsible for the mathematical part of the models, or what I only work on for the most part is picking up the models they've built, doing some optimization on them. A very good example of optimization is like which model produces the best result in a short period of time. And that comes with like when you send predictions, there are certain outputs you're expecting, and it takes a specific period of time. And those are like things that you have to consider in terms when you're working as a machine learning expert, like what works better for the business, like what are the metrics you're interested in, how can you make the life of your data scientist easier. So that's primarily what I do. So I'm building out the infrastructure that has like an end-to-end process where you can easily learn data science in school or learn it on Udemy or wherever. But if you're building out a real solution that says, oh, when you open up your phone, you can actually scan your face and get access to your phone. That's actually some codes that are running behind it, but someone is responsible for making sure your phone can actually use it, because no matter the amount of knowledge you have, if people cannot use it, it's practically useless. So that's where machine learning engineers come in. They build infrastructure, they help, with the optimization of models, they create different data sources and how to effectively connect, retrain the models, because over time, models get decayed when they get built. So you have to continuously keep feeding the model with either you're doing data set or you are removing variables that you don't need, or you are continuously doing like pre-processing and feature engineering on those. But we're going to have another session on machine learning. I don't want to, go too much into that. We have a lot of events coming up, and I would say, Conan, I would say you should look out for those. We're going to send out these emails for sure. Can one reach you with regards to security in the cloud, please? Yes, you can. Yeah, security in the cloud, just not cybersecurity, because I'm not going to be the best guide to you, but I can recommend people also. So reach out for sure. I have done research on cyber and cloud, but I'm still confused which to do. How can I decide? So this is actually a very good, interesting question. In terms of researching on what to do, choosing between cyber and cloud, I think it's important for you to look into, so I recommend you checking out the introductory cloud course that we uploaded on Techchak. I'm going to send you that introduction. So you would see the first 5 videos and you can tell I feel like from the beginning and the introduction of the course, you can tell if you actually want to do it. So we are doing that because those videos are free. Of course, you're not going to have to pay for them. They're on YouTube and they're public. So we are going to send them out to you, and we want you to watch those videos and let us know if this is something you want to pursue. And when it comes to cybersecurity, we have mentors in cybersecurity that we would expose you to, and that will be done in about 2 weeks. So we're going to deploy every mentor that has been on Techchak officially as mentors on the platform, and you can actually search them and have conversations with them about this. Can I dive into AWS while I'm transitioning into the tech industry, or is it better to start with data analysis? Well, it depends on your background. So I would say if you've never done anything tech before, to avoid some level of frustration, you can try to go from a path. If you want to get into AWS, I am now beginning to recommend something called IT administration or system administration. So because every day I do research and I work on understanding how we can better help people, because a lot of people get frustrated trying to learn AWS or DevOps directly. So I think you can find an entry point with IT administration and system administration. And for data analysis, I would say starting with data analysis doesn't necessarily give you everything you need to know to get into the cloud space, except you're going into like data engineering and you sort of need the understanding of how small data set works and all that. But we'll be releasing more information about that, and we'll send via email. How can I reach out to you to discuss security in the cloud, please? So reach out to support@techchak.com, or you can reach out to Gabe, Gabe, @techchak.com, and someone can put that there for me.
I would do that.
How about the apprenticeship program you posted some times ago? The apprenticeship program starts today, but we are not accepting people into that apprenticeship program right now because it's full, and we have to so we don't want too many people. So we are making sure we are limiting ourselves to the people we can concentrate on. So right now, the apprenticeship program is not open. When it opens up again, of course, we'll reach out and you can get on it. But a very smart way is to be on Techchak's plan, which is like a premium plan where you get access to ask questions while you're doing project and continuously keep getting advice on what to do. And a lot of those is very important to actually get a mentor or guide while you're doing this project. We're almost done. Is Techchak providing course on Power BI? Yes, there is actually a course on Power BI that will be uploaded in your profile. That will be uploaded by, I think, on the 16th. So we are expecting a lot of things is happening on the 16th. I hope I don't get arrested, but yeah, so much things happening on the 16th. I learned Tableau, but I think more jobs are leaning towards Power BI based on my interviews. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I've seen a lot of Power BI recently, so you should check it out. We have that rolling out in about 2 weeks, and you would also get support. You know, if you're stuck while learning. What position do you recommend to get into tech? Well, if you're very new, brand new, fairly new, look into like data analysis, IT administration, IT audits. You don't have to code for these things. I think IT administration, you have to probably know some Linux administration and all that stuff. But system admin, IT admin, help desk, they can actually help you slowly transition. And we are building up a lot of materials that support that from now. James, I think someone has a question for you. They said the link tree you attached.
He's answered that.
Oh, you answered? Okay, perfect. Yeah, thanks for that. James, did James drop his LinkedIn handle? We're definitely going to send you James' LinkedIn handle in case you miss it here again. Thanks, James, for this information. I think this is going to be very helpful to the community for sure. I want to ensure a full stack computer vision application for mobile completed deployed on AWS is within the project complexity expectation. Let me read this again. Ensure full stack computer vision application for mobile completely deployed on AWS is within project complexity expectation. This sounds like a job specific. Is this your job? But this sounds like a specific requirement. But here's the thing about projects like this. Example of this project, there's something at the application level, there's something at the infrastructure level. If you want this kind of project, for sure, we can definitely create this kind of project, but understand that it's the same idea of deployment of an application that a software engineer has built, and they need a space to deploy it and fully, run it in a scalable way, secured way, and optimizable way. So we can have projects. I think I can actually set up projects in this way that is definitely readily available. But that would probably take some time because we are going to have to develop a prototype that matches this specific expectation. How much is the premium plan monthly? I think the premium plan monthly is it $59 a month? But then if you do it for a year, I think you pay $50 a month. That's for the premium. Personally, I feel like that's actually way small because with that premium plan, you're getting access to. So we are partnering with companies such that we can ask them to come to Techchak to pick up like apprentices from our program. Of course, we're not promising you a job, but we're telling you we are exposing like exclusive profiles to companies and showing them their portfolio. I wish we could do a demo here, but I think the next event we're going to do a demo for you to see like the kind of things you get. You have roadmaps of projects that you can actually find a guide or a builder can actually walk you through how to complete a project, not teach you. I think it's important to actually set the expectation. You are not being taught, but you are being guided on how to complete those projects. So when you're stuck, there's a place you go to and someone is ready to answer your questions and give you the tips and tricks to complete those projects. How can we access the premium plan on Techchak? It's not ready yet. I think it's going to be next in 2 weeks time maximum. It should be there. Can you help with some advice? I train in business analytics. I haven't gotten enough practical experience, but currently a friend recommended me company as an assistant in project management role. What type of training do I need in this role? Is my business analyst training enough? I wouldn't say your business analysis training is enough for project management. I can't speak too much on that, but I would say forward this question to support at Techchak. We will definitely be able to get that answered. Is there a date for the internal apprenticeship program already? That apprenticeship program starts on Monday, and we're having like their first session today. So just give them like some information about it. How do we build portfolio on Techchak? It's fairly easy. So to build a portfolio on Techchak, this is the last question, by the way, guys. To build a portfolio on Techchak, there are a lot of projects. So you just have to pick a specific project you want to do. Go through the problem statement of that project, document it, and then there's a request button that says request approval on this project. Once you request approval, a member of our team gets a notification that you want a project approved. And they're going to look through that project. Now, what we do for you that I think is really cool is that we don't throw you under the bus by saying, do a project and just put it and build a portfolio. No, we approve those projects and make sure they are up to standard. And we continuously keep putting comments for you on what you can improve on until it's good to be published on your portfolio. And then once that is done, you can just go to techchak.com/your username and you have a profile for yourself that looks like, I'm trying to see if I can show you an example. I think now I'm actually pressured to do that. I'm just going to quickly show you guys what a Techchak portfolio would look like once it's ready for you. I think it's pretty cool. So I'm going into messages. Sorry, just give me 1 second. Almost there. So I'm about to share my screen now. If you can see my screen, not yet, but I'm about to. 1, 2, 3. Let me know if you can, when you can see my screen.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is our dev, by the way. This is not live yet. So this is what your portfolio would look like. So you have a portfolio like this where, you know, people can actually, so if you send this page, you can put this page in a link in your bio, you can send it to a recruiter. So once you do that, they will be able to come directly and access it. And what is here? This is like the project you've completed, if you have any write-up about, and you can be lucky, a company can come here and actually find out you actually worked on a project they are in very, you know, interesting need of, or like pressing need of at that point in time. And you'll also be able to pull links to maybe like your LinkedIn or like your personal website or further details about yourself. And then they are like badges that we've created for people that have done different levels of roadmaps, because we have roadmaps too. And roadmap is here where you can actually have different projects and we tell you what to do when you finish one. So that such that you're actually completing like a series of projects for your level, and you move to the next level and you move to the next level and you're able to, you know, move to the expert level here. And I feel like I'm already showing you what I should not show you. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So I think that's about, you know, that's about it. And I want you guys to give us a shout out on your, if you have like social media, you know, tell people about Techchak and try to maybe post something on your story, and at Techchak HQ is our Instagram. And also, do you have your social media? I think James put his social media there. And you know, our social media is at Techchak HQ. And you can always, you know, recommend people to us and you know, send people our way. And also reach out to support@techchak.com if you have questions. And we are currently doing something where we are matching like mentees with mentors. Now, I think we would send information about that. If you ever need something like that, just reach out and we will be helping people out in the next few weeks to find the right mentors for them. And yeah, that's the Instagram ID at Techchak HQ. I don't know, does James use Instagram? You're not an Instagram person. I think you have Twitter. Yeah, I see Twitter there. Perfect.
Yeah, you talked me into it, Gabe, but I haven't quite committed to it yet. So don't follow me on Instagram. I'm not. I just started on Twitter, so yeah.
Great. Yep. So I'm also on Twitter. Like I think AY is AY in Twitter? I'm not sure, but
I am, but I don't use it.
I don't care to be followed, but just follow Techchak and HQ. And you can also send us an email at support@techchak.com. I think this was quite, you know, great. James, do you have any closing advice for people?
Yeah, no, I want to thank you guys again for inviting me. It was great getting to hear your stories and to share mine with a bigger audience. And I think hearing about Techchak and the mission, I think it's amazing. And the only other thing that I would maybe encourage people to do is to also focus on building their, I call it an online brand, and that can be on LinkedIn. I highly encourage it on LinkedIn. And especially as you're learning things, as you're going through the Techchak program, perhaps post on LinkedIn, engage with LinkedIn, engage with me, engage with people like Gabe and AY. You know, do that and you're going to build that personal brand. And by the time you've done the Techchak program, you're going to already have established yourself on the social platform. And if everything goes right, you're going to have those awesome projects that you're going to have right there in your featured section. And the recruiters are actually going to start finding you instead of you having to go to them. So I just wanted to add that in there as well.
Great, great. This is amazing. Does AY have any closing remarks?
Yeah. For people that have LinkedIn, just to add to what James said right now, you can make yourself open to work. I think there's a tab on LinkedIn where you can say I'm open to work, especially you're learning this new concept. It's always very, very good because almost every day recruiters reach out to me on LinkedIn, and I don't even apply to jobs on LinkedIn. Recruiters reach out to me on LinkedIn, and that's because I make sure I'm open to work on LinkedIn, even though I'm not like technically looking for work. But some opportunities come around, and it may sound interesting that I may be interested in, and I'm just always making sure that I'm available when those opportunities come. So that's what I would say. Thank you for everything, everybody.
So thank you so much, everyone. This was amazing. Like, I think our expectations were blown. We didn't even expect this amount of turnout from people. So thank you so much for coming up, coming in. And James, I feel like I owe you so much right now, but thank you so much for your time. And yeah, look out for like next updates and stick to your email, and we would send a lot of information from there. Thank you so much, guys. Have a good one. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, everyone. Thank you
Bye.
again.